Hello and welcome everyone. Welcome to today's launch webinar of the Carer Knowledge Exchange. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we meet today. I'm coming to you from the land of the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and I'd like to pay my respects to traditional owners, past, present and emerging. And I'd also like everyone to just pause briefly to acknowledge the traditional owners of the various lands on which we meet today and pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging, and pay our respects to all Aboriginal people that are joining us here today on the webinar. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. It's a very exciting afternoon for us all. My name is Tish Crinon. I'm a Senior Manager at the Institute for Public Policy and Governance at UTS, and I'll be emceeing this afternoon's session and introducing our speakers and introducing the program for the afternoon. As I said, thanks for joining us. We're very excited. I'm very excited to introduce now to you three people who will be speaking in the first half of the webinar. Karen Turvey is the first person I'd like to introduce. Karen is the Acting Manager for Carers in the New South Wales Department of Communities and Justice. This initiative, the Carer Knowledge Exchange, is proudly funded by the New South Wales Government through the Department of Communities and Justice. And Karen is the DCJ representative on the Exchange Steering Group. Karen will be speaking with you today. I'd also like to introduce Elena Kotrakis, who's the Chief Executive Officer of Carers New South Wales. Carers New South Wales is partnering with us, with the Institute for Public Policy and Governance, in delivering the exchange, this initiative to you. Elena is the Carers New South Wales representative on the Exchange Steering Group. I'd like to introduce our third speaker this afternoon, who's Carol Mills. Carol is the Director of the Institute for Public Policy and Governance at IPPG, at UTS, sorry, and Carol will be speaking with us this afternoon as well. The outline of the session, so that everyone is aware, we're going to hear from Karen, Elena and Carol. We're going to give you a brief look at the website, the Exchange website. And we're also going to move into a part of the session where you'll get to hear more about the Exchange. You'll get to hear from different people and have a chance for a bit of Q&A and discussion to get to know what the Exchange is going to do and some of the details about how it's going to operate. The purpose of the Carer Knowledge Exchange is not only to locate knowledge, research, information, but to showcase it, but more importantly, to act on it. We all know that evidence is what makes a difference in any endeavour. What's known is noticed, actioned and measured. So this Carer Knowledge Exchange is designed to do just this. It is designed to influence and make an impact for the good, an impact on the lives of carers in a positive way. What I'd like to do now is to show you just have a little taste of what the web site will look like, what the Exchange website will look like. I think Sarah's going to bring those slides up. Just bear with us if there are any minor technical glitches today. As you know, doing all of these things remotely with a dozen different people in a dozen different locations may come with some glitches, so bear with us. We're very excited to show you the landing page for the new Carer Knowledge Exchange digital platform. Obviously, this is going to grow into a living, breathing space in 2022, but we're very happy to show you what this is going to look like. This is going to be a very inviting and welcoming space for everyone working in the field of carer knowledge to explore, to come to. At the moment, what you can see, you will be able to see 3 different functions on the website. You'll be able to find out more about the exchange. You'll be able to sign up to receive email updates, and also you'll be able to sign up to suggest publications. So we're very keen to get this started in 2021, in the remainder of 2021, so that we can get the ball rolling. And this is just a little taste of what the website will be starting with and what the exchange will do in 2021. Obviously, Sarah will put those slides up later on, I think in the second half of the session, but that just gives you a little taste of what we hope will be a very attractive and welcoming place for the carer community to convene and to come together. Obviously, what we would like you all to do, and often we don't do this during sessions, but we're encouraging you during this session to actually go to your phone or go to your browser and actually type in the web address that you can see there on your screen. Type it in now. We want to actually see people accessing this today. You'll see there your networks. With your networks, we'd like you to share. It'd be great if by the end of today you could think of 5 people in your network that you could share the web address with. And we have put up there a few hashtags that we would love you all to take note of and to use from today on your social channels to, I suppose, get some momentum going and to get some interest going in the website, because this is the very beginning of our work in this area. So it'd be great if you could take notice of what's on the screen now. Feel free to type away. And obviously you'll find Carers New South Wales on Twitter, on Instagram, Facebook and LinkedIn. And we would love you to use all of those channels to begin your activity around the Carer Knowledge Exchange. We're very, very pleased to have people typing away on their screens while we're having this part of the session before we start into the official section of the session. We're very proud of the work that's been done to date just to get us to this point. We're very excited about what's to come. What I would like to do is to now, as we officially launch the Carer Knowledge Exchange, I would like to introduce our first speaker. And I'm just going to check that we've got our speakers in order. We're having a slight change to the program, so we're going to go straight to Elena, who is waiting to speak with you. And I'd like to introduce Elena Katrakis now, who is the CEO of Carer New South Wales. Thanks, Elena.
Thanks, Tish. Thanks, everybody. And it's fantastic to be here today because it's something that we've been talking about for quite a while. So I'm really excited to be involved in launching the Carer Knowledge Exchange this afternoon. It is something that we have been working on for quite a long time. It's a concept, I suppose, that we had discussions early on with Department of Communities and Justice, probably around 2017, initially, where we were looking at how we could bring, research in New South Wales and research across Australia together. We didn't really know what it would look like, but we just kind of had an idea. And it is from those ideas that things grow. And I did mention at our conference last Thursday that in how we've worked with DCJ over the last few years has been fantastic, where we've had these conversations and out of those conversations, projects grow. So I'm really excited that we're seeing the reality of the launch of the Carer Knowledge Exchange today. In terms of the development of the Knowledge Exchange, we've drawn on some of the international work that we know has been undertaken. Professor Mary Larkin at Open University in the UK has a concept called CAREN, which is a Carer Research and Knowledge Exchange, which is around a collection of sort of international carer research. So we've drawn on that, and we wanted to make, I suppose, we wanted something unique for New South Wales and Australia in carer research, and we wanted something that was really, as the logo says, translating the knowledge into practice and really providing that opportunity. So last year we were in a position to be able to identify some resources to be able to start work on really the nuts and bolts of what this would look like. So we received preliminary approval from Communities and Justice to partner with IPPG and to establish the Care and Knowledge Exchange. So we've been working, in partnership with IPPG for some time with the Centre for Carers Research, and this is a natural sort of transition from the centre into the Care and Knowledge Exchange. So it's a strong and fantastic partnership, and we're really proud to be building on that with the development of the Knowledge Exchange. So following a huge amount of work, particularly acknowledging the fantastic work of Edwina Deacon at IPPG and Sarah Judd-Lamb at Carers New South Wales, who really brought all of the ideas and different areas together this year. It's really pleasing to be able to launch the Care and Knowledge Exchange today. So we're really hopeful that the Knowledge Exchange will really bring great opportunities to create connections for many of the outstanding carer researchers that we have in New South Wales and Australia, both from an academic background, but also from a non-academic background. Tish mentioned earlier the importance of evidence base. So, quality evidence is really key to effective policy making, and it impacts on service delivery. It really is at the centre of everything that Carers New South Wales does in terms of our own service design, our delivery of services to carers, and our systemic advocacy to government around policy and carer policy. So we're really passionate about making sure that we're there helping researchers to really share their findings with policymakers, practitioners and carers to really make a difference for carers, and about supporting those researchers to expand their research and impact. Another aspect to the project, which is really great and which you'll hear a little bit more about later, is, as the peak NGO for carers in New South Wales, being carer focused is obviously at the centre and core of everything that we do. So we're really pleased that as part of this project, we've maintained that focus on lived experience. So we've got carers forming a crucial advisory role, supporting the establishment and the delivery of the project. They will be a key audience of the digital platform and also part of the knowledge translation activities. So those staying on for the second half of the webinar will be able to meet one of the carers involved in this project in that advisory capacity. So we really believe that this project is a critical step forward for carer research, policy and practice in Australia, providing absolutely unique opportunities to both build and share the evidence base to improve the outcomes for carers across Australia. So as Tish said, share the links, go to the landing page, enjoy, engage in the conversation in social media, and we look forward to working with everybody and all the researchers and to really building our carer research library. So thanks, Tish.
Thanks very much, Elena. I'd like to introduce now Carol Mills, who is the Director of the Institute for Public Policy and Governance at UTS. Carol's going to obviously say a few words today regarding how involved the IPPG involvement. So thanks very much, Carol.
Thanks, Tish. And I probably want to begin by endorsing Elena's comments and reiterating that this is a really unique opportunity for us to, one, extend the work that we've conducted over the last 3 years and the learnings that we've been able to share through the Carers Research Centre based inside the Institute at UTS. And we've also really taken forward the lessons from that in terms of how we can build strong partnerships between academic research, broader research, and on-the-ground delivery of improved services for carers. One of the things that we've found really exciting about this project is the fact that it is a true partnership between ourselves, Communities and Justice, and Carers New South Wales. And that unique aspect of having government involvement, advocacy and service delivery experts involved and researchers involved means that we really are very optimistic about making a difference for people who are caring and for people who are providing services to carers throughout the state. One of the things we really have learned in the last couple of years, thanks to the input of many of you who are participating in the launch today, is that we need to take research more than just we need to take research beyond problem finding and into solution creation. And one of the real, I suppose, imperatives for our university at UTS and for the Institute is to play exactly that role, to take research and translate it, to help people access it, to people think about what it means, and to help develop solutions that can actually respond to the research issues. So to give a small example of something that I just read recently, a survey of carers during the pandemic in the US found that 70% of carers had felt themselves under additional mental health or anxiety stress during the period of lockdowns in the US. The same research also found that 30 to 40% of those carers felt that they were less stressed, less anxious if they had just one person supporting them in some way. Now, that kind of information is really vital to us, but it also means us thinking about how does that person come into being? How do we provide that kind of support mechanism? Many of the lessons that we've learned during the COVID period have been, what do we do, particularly for carers when they're more isolated, when they're less able to have breaks from caring, when they're less able to have informal visits, when they're less able to have regular, I suppose, employment and other opportunities that support them financially and emotionally and practically in their caring role. One of the things that we want to make sure is that the services that we provide through our partnership in the research exchange is that we actually take those issues forward. We take lessons forward, we take learnings forward, and we distribute them in a way that allows people on the ground to really provide quality services to people who are caring. And as advocates for carers, that we also provide really clear information and advice at a systemic level about what matters, what can work, and how we can actually improve at a program level, not just an individual level, but the life of carers. For us to do this, it's really important that we've got our partnership to establish the framework, to establish the model, but we need all of you to participate to actually give life to this exchange. And we really look forward to working with you over the next few years on making this thing not just a reality in terms of putting information on sites and distributing it, but actually seeing a difference on the ground as a result of our efforts. So thanks again to everyone who's been involved to date. It's been a very exciting 12 months for us, really working closely with the department and with carers about designing something that can really make a difference. And we really look forward to a partnership with all of you over the period of this program evolving. Thank you, Tish.
Thanks, Carol. I'd now like to introduce Karen Kirby, who from the Department of Communities and Justice, who would like to say a few words as well. Thanks, Karen. Over to you.
Sorry. Hello, everyone. Look, I'm sorry. I've had tech issues and I'm dialing in via my phone. I hope I'm coming in clear. I'm really pleased to be here today for the official launch of the Carers Knowledge Exchange. The Department of Communities and Justice strongly supports this work, and we provided funding for this project for 3 years until 2024. This project is really exciting because it will help to bridge the gap between carer research and policy and practice. It'll help policymakers and practitioners such as myself to implement projects with a really strong evidence base. For example, we'll be looking to the Knowledge Exchange Centre to help us to implement the first action plan of the New South Wales Carer Strategy. The new Carer Strategy, 2020 to 2030, was launched in Carers Week this time last year, and it provides a framework for the New South Wales Government to support carers. The strategy was developed on a very strong evidence base, and we used a comprehensive co-design process with over 400 participants, most of whom were carers. And we did a number of face-to-face workshops, and we also did an online survey. So the knowledge exchange for us will build on this evidence base. It will help support the implementation of the strategy, and we're hoping that it'll align with the 4 main priorities which were identified by carers through the co-design process. I've worked in government developing policy for many years, and it's often hard for us to keep up with the latest research and work out what research is relevant and distill the key messages and what it means for carers. And I've also come from a research background, and I know how difficult it can be to make the research relevant to policy in an ever-changing landscape. The Carers Knowledge Exchange will support us to implement the strategy by bridging this gap that's often found between research, policy and practice in innovative ways. So I'm really looking forward to participating in all the engagement activities and the discussion forums and events. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Karen. It's great that you could join us despite the technical difficulties that present themselves. So well done. I mean, I think that what Karen just touched on is something that I want to reinforce, which is that there is a really exciting program of engagement planned as part of the exchange. It's not just a static digital platform. This will be a living and breathing organism. It will be full of webinars, it will be full of events, it will be full of conversations and really exciting activities. And so what I would like to do is to encourage everyone to stay on the second part of the webinar. You're going to hear from some really exciting and knowledgeable people who are going to take you through a more detailed overview of the exchange, walk you through timelines for when things are going to happen, talk to you about the advisory group, the function of the advisory group and the activities and outcomes, and also talk to you about the research advisory group. So there are two very important advisory groups as part of this exchange project, and you're going to hear about those in the second part of this webinar. And also there's going to be an opportunity for some questions and answers, so a really interesting discussion to come. But I think now what I'd like to encourage you all to do, as I said, as we transition from the formal proceedings today for the launch into the discussion aspects, is to make sure you have logged on to the web address, that you have taken note. Sarah, you might like to go back to that page. Thank you. You've taken note of the hashtags and that you've accessed some of the social channels to begin your interaction with the exchange in preparation for hearing about the activities that are planned. So I encourage you all to stay engaged to hear about what's to come. I encourage you to sign up to receive email updates, and supporting Carol and Elena and Karen, I'd like to formally launch the Carer Knowledge Exchange, which is the beginning of a very exciting journey in this area. So thank you, Carol. Thank you, Elena. Thank you, Carol, Elena and Karen. Thank you all very much. And I also at this stage would like to acknowledge the work of Edwina Deakin and Sarah Judd-Lamb, who are the two people who have probably brought this fabulous initiative to fruition today. And if it wasn't for their efforts, I don't think we would have got here. So it's very exciting. You're going to hear from both Sarah and Edwina following this. So thank you very much, all of you, for being here today for this launch. The carer community is an absolutely fantastic community. I thank you all for joining us and for supporting this initiative. We know that it will bring positive outcomes for carers in New South Wales and beyond. But thank you all very much for joining us today. As the official speakers sign off for now, I encourage you all to stay online, and I will hand over to Sarah Judd-Lamb, who is going to take you through the next part of this program. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, Tish, and all of our presenters this morning. And thank you, everyone, for joining us today and for your patience with our technical glitches. It's one of those interesting times. And I'd like to also introduce my colleague, Edwina Deakin, who's also online. And as Tish mentioned, Edwina and I have been working on this establishment of this project for a number of months now. So we are going to take you through some background slides on the project, where it came from, where it's going, and some of the concrete deliverables that we're looking at. And as you may have noticed, we're in a webinar format today. So if you have any questions, you are welcome to pop those in the chat or to use the question and answer function at the bottom of the screen in the middle. And we will come back to those questions in a Q&A session towards the end, so towards 2 o'clock. And we welcome also our additional panelists, Hugh and Kirsten, and you're welcome to put your videos on if you would like to, as we go through these additional slides. So I think I'm going to do the first couple and then I'll hand over to Edwina. So this section, as Tish mentioned, is more to go into some of the detail of this project following the official launch. I'll go to our next slide just to give you an overview. I will address the first 3 points there and then pass over to Edwina, just giving a bit of additional background. And you'll notice that the slides for the first half of this webinar were in the Carers New South Wales branding, and these slides are in the IPPG branding. So just demonstrating our partnership in delivering this project and moving into the launch of more materials and the final website. We will, I'm sure, have some combined branding with our lovely Exchange logo and website that you saw earlier. Just to give you a bit of an overview at first, this is echoing much of what Tish and others mentioned before. The Carer Knowledge Exchange has a number of different features, and a central element is the digital platform, which you saw a taste of in the initial landing page earlier. So that will be built out, and in February we'll have a lot more whiz-bang features, but for now it's just a starting point to connect. And as you can see on this slide, there are 3 key audiences that we're looking to reach, and that's the researchers, carers, and also people that are making decisions and actually providing services day to day, so that everyone can share knowledge between each other and learn from each other. And if you're wondering about the name of the project, Carer Knowledge Exchange really just refers to the exchange of, or the sharing of, evidence about carers, both from research evidence, academic and non-academic, and also practice-based expertise and best practice. And we also really want to highlight, as well as the presenters earlier said, the learnings from the lived experience of carers and caring. The aims of the project, as mentioned earlier, we want to build on existing experience and expertise and the fantastic carer research work happening in Australia and in New South Wales already, and the knowledge translation that's already ongoing among many of our existing research partners. We want to translate the carer evidence base for a range of audiences in order to improve carer outcomes through improved policy and practice. And we want to expand the existing networks that already are in place in New South Wales and Australia between researchers, sector representatives and community members, including carers, so that there's a stronger evidence base that can be used to boost systemic advocacy and service design. So as was mentioned before, the digital platform is key, but we really want it to be more than a website. So there's going to be a number of activities which Edwina will take you through shortly around actually getting people to connect. Once we can do face-to-face, we'll do face-to-face. For now, we're focusing on online, but we have 3 years of this project initially, so we're going to have regular touch points in all different formats so that people can get involved on topics that are of interest to them. So as you can see down there, there'll be a number of interactive features, both online and offline, webinars and discussion forums, also events face-to-face and online, both in the form of webinars and more informal connection opportunities. There'll be opportunities to sign up for updates and newsletters, and hopefully different channels for networking, such as discussion forums. So I think if we go to this diagram here, we'll see how this project is broadly going to work. So we've already mentioned that it's a partnership project between Carers New South Wales and IPPG with New South Wales government funding. And we have 2 advisory groups, which we'll hear about shortly from members of those advisory groups. And they will inform a steering group, which then steers the project. There'll also be some staffing, which is still being put in place. So there'll be an exchange team across IPPG and Carers New South Wales to coordinate with existing activities. I think over to you, Edwina, on the digital platform. Is that right? Oh, I think you are muted.
I do just want to cover this one, Sarah, and I'll tag into the next one.
Yeah. No worries. So you all already heard a little bit about our digital platform. As I mentioned, it's pretty limited at the moment, but it provides a place to connect. There will be a number of additional features which we're working on at the moment with the web provider in conjunction with our advisory groups. And really a core element of it's going to be a searchable library of research publications on carers, the capacity to submit your own research to be considered as part of that, and also the opportunity to register for events and networks. So you'll see and hear much more about that in the coming months. And if you want to know when that's live, please do sign up using the landing page link now, because then you'll be on our list and we'll update you as that becomes complete towards the end of February.
Okay, tag to me. Hi everyone, and thanks for joining us today. I don't know if Sarah and I are either going to be exciting or knowledgeable, but it was very nice to be billed as such. So what I'm just going to do is run through, probably only another 5 minutes, is just run through maybe some of the things where some of you are saying, well, what is this knowledge exchange actually going to do? And so we've, between ourselves at UTS and Carers New South Wales, it's been a really enjoyable partnership. We're just going to nut out with you what some of those deliverables are, and then a little bit more about how we would know if we're being successful. So the way we think the exchange is working, and we'd be very keen to have your comments chatted into the chat field or ask us later, is that each year of the 3 years that we're going to work, rather than try and be everything to all people, we're going to focus each year on one research theme. And for this year, it's been selected to relate to carers and employment, and I guess the economic barriers and opportunities that face carers in the sort of broader employment and economic place, because there's been a lot of very excellent work already done in that field. And we'll talk to you a little bit later about the first event. So each year of the 3 years, there will be one research field, the priority sort of research topic. That's not to say that the exchange won't also be registering other research themes, but it is just to saying we're going to have a particular focus on one. The idea would be normally we'll broadcast that around June to get people excited. But for this year, we've identified it in September. Once we have that research theme, every year we're proposing to have one annual research incubator event, which is a fancy word for a sort of a conference, but a lot of exchanges. And as I said, that would be linked to the priority theme. And we're planning to have that sort of at the end of each year. So this program, the exchanges works on a financial year. So we began on the 1 July and we'll run for the 3 years. So around the end of each year, we'll be holding that major incubator event, and we'd be hoping all of you on screen and many others will join us. And the first event will be in May next year. So stay tuned for when and the details of that. In addition, every year, using that last event as a bit of a punctuation, we're proposing to host 3 well-planned and with long lead times, 3 webinars, with 2 of them focused on different aspects potentially of our priority theme. And in the normal years, they'll happen or just punctuated around that May event, would happen around February, August and November. And we're hoping for this, our first event is going to happen in November, and Sarah might give us a little bit more details about that as we get to the timeline. Importantly, they're all events and talking and people, but we also really want to make sure at least every year we have 3 community of practice or networking activities. Obviously, we'd love these, and I believe we're allowed to dream the fact that we might be having some of these face-to-face. But also we're very mindful that the research and carers community extends well beyond those that are able to meet face-to-face even outside of a pandemic. So we'll certainly be looking to having some of those community or networking activities online through webinars and through different ways. So very keen to hear your ideas around that. So pretty much these events are obviously very much to complement the very busy activity that will be happening on the platform that we launched today. But that's sort of what we're shooting for every year. Not trying to do too much, but hopefully doing enough to keep the engines of research and research translation going. So if that's what we're doing, it might be good just to tell you how we think we will measure our success. It's one of the challenges we always have is people are very ambitious, for what anything can do, but we feel as though if we, based on the aims and objectives of the exchange, this is what the steering committee has sort of thought is a useful way of evaluating. So next slide, please, Sarah. So really, we've set ourselves only 3 major measures. So by the end of the 3 years, but also measured all the way through, our main measure is that we want to expand people like yourselves access to carers research and just what is good practice and evidence-based good practice in carer practice and carer research. We also want to expand, obviously we want people to know about the research, but really we want to influence how that research is being put into practice. So we're interested in expanding how those approaches are being picked up by service providers, by the health system and by government agencies, by the not-for-profit sector, by universities. What are people doing to use what we know works to help to support carers and their caring roles? So they're our sort of, I guess you could say they're our headline measures, but we also are very keen to play our role in building the networks and the community of practice and how people are working together to get to support research and to get information out into that broader community. So that's our next one. We also really want to make sure when we do hold events that people actually feel as though they were sort of activities that informed them and allowed them to then go back to their respective workplaces and lives and use those ideas they've learnt through other activities in the way that they come across proceed in their day-to-day lives. And the last and the third and final one is really that we want to be measured to say that we really did sort of stimulate and support additional carer research and practice collaborations. So we want to try and use the exchange to be a bit of a glue, bringing people, different stakeholders together with different parties to sort of share, collaborate and do what they can to progress evidence-based research. So that might be for some of you a bit of jargon around evaluations, but we think that that's important to articulate how we're going to measure it. So yeah, thanks, Sarah. Next one is good. And so really, how are we going to measure that? They're quite ambitious targets. So we're hoping to use and we'll be very interested to watch, not in a spooky way, we hope, how people are using the information we provide on the digital platform. And obviously, probably some of you know that behind most platforms is a very sophisticated analytics. We'll be able to see, not you personally, but we'll be very keen to say, where are people coming in? What times of day are they coming in? How are they using? What are they downloading? How many hits there were on different parts of the portal? So they will be very useful instruments to measure those evaluation things. We'll be gathering our own information as sort of program administrators. So who's coming to events? You know, what do we know about? How many inquiries have we got? Who's presenting papers? All of that stuff. We also, and prepare yourself for, if you come to an event, you will find us doing some very simple evaluations at the end to see how you found them. Obviously, for a 3-year event, we're very keen that we learn from what we did well. I don't think, Sarah, we're going to bother people today at the launch, but that they might get, for all future events, we'll be really keen just to get you to do a very quick surveys. How was it? What worked? What didn't? How can we improve in the future? So we'll be using those sorts of things. Every year also, we're going to go wide out to our broader networks who we hope will engage with the platform and the exchange and say, how are we going generally? And also use our annual surveys to help us influence next year's priorities. And lastly, we're just very keen to gather qualitative feedback that you might have. Send us as emails. What did the exchange think? What do advisory group members think? What did you think? So all other ways of providing feedback, and we'll use all of those to, you know, do annual reviews and regular reports back to the steering group and the advisory group about how we're travelling. So that's how we're going to evaluate it. And then the only last thing just to move to is, and stick some questions in there, is just sort of what's coming up. And I'll start this and then Sarah might finish it with more about the, so really in September, we've been quite busy, and Sarah and I have been pretty busy over the last couple of months working with Elena and Carol and Tish, just to get the sort of infrastructure of the exchange up. And so we are very happy to report the advisory groups are now in place, and you're about to hear from representatives from each one. So I'll leave it to them. Obviously a tick for us today, because today is officially launching that digital platform and getting a call out for you guys to get involved in it, and inviting you to register for our webinar. Obviously, there's a lot of work going on behind the scenes. Sarah in particular and Tish are working on the digital platform, and we are active in trying to recruit staff into those various positions. We may take into November to actually have them sitting in seats, but that's obviously another very active space. The next major event, just to bring to your attention, or the first one really, is that exchange webinar. And as I said, the working on the priority theme. We're yet to scope speakers and the like, but just wanted you to register. Sarah, I might flip to you just for a moment around the 24th as a date. You just want to add any more details about that first exchange webinar?
Yes, absolutely. So we just wanted to mention this so that it's an extra incentive for people to sign up using the landing page for updates. So if you are interested in joining that webinar, first we ask that you save the date. There's going to be a lunchtime webinar on Wednesday, the 24th of November from 12 to 1 p.m. The focus is going to be on carer employment. And so we will send out some further details about that probably next week to the list of people that have registered via the website for more information. So if you do want to hear more about that, please sign up using the link that we provided earlier. And we'll also promote it through some of the other Carers New South Wales channels and IPPG channels that you may be involved with. But please do pop that in the calendar, and we'll provide more details soon.
Thanks, Sarah. And so by December, we're hoping to start getting those first tranche of research papers uploaded onto and doing call outs to get those early documents uploaded onto the exchange. And then next year's, just to remind you, a couple of things coming up for next year, just so you can, we haven't got dates for them, but Sarah might go to just the next slide if I could. So come January, again, uploading more research papers, letting people know early in the year about the date and details of that incubator event where we're going to share things. By February will be the exciting date. The digital platform will actually be fully live and with all its bells and whistles. At that around the similar time, we plan to host that second exchange webinar corresponding with the launch, and we'll obviously get your feedback and talk to the advisory groups and steering group about a topic for the second one. Again, remembering that it is probably going to focus around the theme of employment just for this year. Come May and April, launching those a sort of third round of uploads. But importantly, in May, hosting that first big major exchange incubator event stroke conference. By June, we'd be keen to start looking for our priority theme for the coming year, and obviously developing all the deliverables in a bit of a business plan, which we've done our first business plan for this year already. So pretty much that's what's happening. I think that's the end of our slides. Sarah, if there's anything I've missed, yeah, just let us know. And very happy now to switch over back to you, Sarah, perhaps to introduce our advisory group members to have a bit of a chat.
Fantastic. So I just snuck in an extra slide there with a screenshot of the landing page, and just a reminder of that hopefully easy to remember web address to encourage everyone to go there, especially those that may have joined later. So I will stop sharing those slides now just so we can meet our advisory group members. And so we'll be starting with a member of our carer advisory group and then followed by a member of our research advisory group. And as it was mentioned before, around the sort of governance and staffing, these advisory groups are really, really important in helping us shape the platform and also the activities. So you'll hear a little bit more about that in a second. And so first, I'd like to introduce Kirsten Baird-Bate from the Carer Advisory Group.
Hi everyone, I'm Kirsten and I'm part of the Carer Advisory Group. And today we'll just be giving you some insight into the role of the Carer Advisory Group and some of the anticipated outcomes from the project from a carer's perspective. So as we heard earlier, the number one guiding principle of the exchange is to have carers at the centre, and one of the ways that this will be achieved is through the Carer Advisory Group. So the main purpose of the group will be to ensure the focus and direction of the exchange and its activities are informed by and remain relevant to the lived experiences of carers. So as a group, we'll be meeting regularly to contribute to and provide feedback on the design and implementation of the exchange. We're a group of approximately 5 primary carers, and we each share an interest in and or have experience in research or related fields. And so we're bringing not just our own lived experiences as carers, but we're also bringing these additional skill sets and interests to the exchange, with looking to feedback ideas and insights to strengthen the exchange. So one of the specific focuses of the Care Advisory Group, as we heard, will be the research knowledge translation activities. And for me, the research translation aspect of this exchange will be one of the most exciting features of the project. So in addition to my role as a primary carer, I'm also a PhD research candidate in my final years, looking at how primary carers conceptualise wellbeing. So from both a carer and a researcher perspective, I see the inherent value of really unlocking research from the confines of academic language and static formal publications to ensure information and resources are accessible and relevant and live, and most importantly, meaningful to a range of stakeholder groups. So in addition to acting as a research repository, as we've heard, the exchange will also be hosting webinars and these other activities and events to potentialise those communication engagement across a number of stakeholder groups. So one of the things that I think I've learned through both my own research and caregiving experience is that the capacity of the primary carer to advocate and implement and orchestrate support for themselves, their families, and the person they care for really hinges on their own well-being. So given this critical role of the carers, it's really vital that care-related issues gain traction within research and policy. And it's also vital that carer research and policy and the systems and services are informed by this robust evidence base, and that they're reflective of the needs of the carers themselves. And key here, I think, is this improved connection between the stakeholder groups. And I see the Carer Knowledge Exchange as really representing this important nexus. It brings together the researchers and the academics and those working in the field and in policy and advocacy with the carers themselves. And it's through this synergy that's really hoped we'll see some improved outcomes for carers and ultimately the people that we're caring for. So I'm really excited and incredibly grateful to be part of this Care Advisory Group. And I'm really looking forward to working with such an amazing team of people and seeing what can be achieved together. So thanks, Sarah.
Thanks so much, Kirsten. And it's great that we've been able to meet one of our Carer Advisory Group members. And we'll now hand over to Hugh Bainbridge to talk a little bit about the other advisory group, which is the Research Advisory Group. Thanks, Hugh.
All right, good afternoon. My name is Hugh Bainbridge. I'm an academic at the University of New South Wales. I'm someone who's had the benefit of having a long-term involvement with Carers New South Wales, and that's involved through a range of the iterations of the Carers Survey, which has occurred almost through the last 8 to 10 years. Worked on the Carers Employers and Carers Network. I've had the opportunity to work with Carers New South Wales, Department of Communities Justice on the New South Wales Carers Strategy, and a variety of other things. So I think what I'd emphasise is that I'm not alone, and there's a group of people who are like me, who have also had engagements and long-term engagements with Carers New South Wales. And for us, this provides, I guess, an opportunity in a structured sense to bring together all those individual efforts and really to bring a critical mass to bear in helping to push in the same to achieve some of the things that Carers New South Wales is trying to achieve. The Research Advisory Group will be a group of about 10 to 12 people. We're pretty much fully staffed already. And I think one of the great strengths of that group is that while lots of them look like me, they also don't look like me. I come from the business school myself, but on the Research Advisory Group, we've got sociologists and people with economics training who come from medicine and public health and public policy and sociology. But they're people that we know really well. I see them at conferences, I know roughly their work, but this is a great opportunity for us really just to get together and hopefully work on some initiatives that really lead to some proper changes. In terms of outcomes of the research advisory group, I'd suggest that there's sort of two things that we sort of hope. One is knowledge sharing from us to the public, and that could be in terms of general carers, it could be government, people interested in policy advocacy and change, it could be other researchers, but also information coming back into us. We want to learn more from the public, because I think it's a great opportunity for us to work with the Carers Advisory Group, but also the people who have that lived experiences of being carers or are active in that sort of general public space as well. I guess the other major focus for us is to think about how we can translate the work that we do in a more accessible way to the broader community. If I was going to look at the type of work that most of us do, it's often long journal articles published in academic speak, which are hidden behind paywalls, so you can't access them. And a lot of our work is maybe involved in academic debates, which can be theoretical, and maybe the policy implications, the actual implications for change, aren't as well developed as they could be. So the Research Advisory Group and the broader knowledge exchange gives us an opportunity to start thinking about better ways to communicate that information, whether it's in terms of video summaries, whether it's in terms of sort of boiling down our long articles into sort of clear one-page summaries, whether it's discussion forums, whether it's webinars, but proper opportunities to actually engage with lots of groups in this space. So obviously I'm excited and I'm fully supportive of the initiative which is being discussed today. So over to you.
Thanks so much, Hugh. And again, it's just great to hear from our advisory groups, because they're really sort of the engine room behind a lot of this, and they're the experts, and they bring a lot of energy and expertise really to what we're doing. And as Hugh mentioned, we're really keen to make sure that the knowledge translation is central to this project. And so those of you that are visiting the website, which I will continue to plug, and who are looking to submit research publications, will notice that there's a very strong emphasis in that form on making sure that you translate your results for those audiences. So please do give that a go. We have had a few questions come through, so we will work through those. I think we've got a little bit of time before we close. So I think we had the first question we had, and I'll put these to everybody as we need, was around the planned date for the launch of the website. So that was, I think, mentioned in passing in the timeline, but to confirm, the current sort of go live date for the full website is 15th of February, so middle of February. And that'll be, we'll update everybody via email who signs up, but the initial page will be in place until then. The second question I've seen come through the Q&A, could the events also include looking at how long-term care impacts on a carer's own health and well-being, and looking at speaking about personal experience of being a carer for someone with a mental illness, and would like to have research on this, and also looking at what will be available for a former carer when the caring role ends, and is there a way to research the future of supports for people with a mental illness as they age and as their carers age? So did anyone want to comment on that question?
I guess I'd just say that I think it's fantastic whoever contributed that. There's such a huge field of things that can be researched, and we'd be hoping those ideas, and there'll be others, great ideas, can sort of be put out to the sector to say, who is anybody researching this? What do we know about this? So I don't have a specific comment on that, though obviously it's a really important issue, and we'd be hoping that the exchange can actually serve to say, this is a need. Can somebody, is there research already on this, or how can we answer these needs? So it's not a very satisfactory response, but just wanted to raise it as it's a good thing to raise the specific issues that people are wanting answers to, because that will then inform some of the events that we might hold, or some researcher might step forward and share their findings in that particular area.
And I'll just quickly jump in to say, great suggestions. One of the research advisor groups, her current research interest is on former carers. Speaking for myself, I'm very interested in long-term wellbeing outcomes over people's employment career. So there's lots of different ways to connect with topics, and if we're not able to facilitate pointing you in the right direction or working with you, I'm sure that we know of people. So it's really just a forum to hopefully make connections.
Fantastic. And we've had a couple of other comments rather than questions on topics. So looking at the importance of support from employers and also on NDIS support. And so again, just echoing those earlier comments, it's really good timing to get this feedback on topics of interest, because we're about to go into quite a hands-on planning phase with our advisory groups around the website and what themes are featured and things like that. So we'll absolutely take all of this on board as part of that process. And then I think in terms of the chat, there were a couple of additional questions we can probably address quickly. So we had one here, some comments. How carers can be involved in research was another question here. So from a lived experience, there's the carer in residence role, and there's also the carer representatives within Carers New South Wales. There's carer peer worker elements. So I guess, did anyone want to comment on how carers can be involved in research in this context?
Sarah, we skipped through the slide, but really importantly, probably something to note is we've taken a leaf out of the Centre for Carers Research and ensuring that there is a carer in residence as part of the exchange team. And so that allows that sort of ongoing voice in terms of all the activities of the exchange. I know doesn't speak for all carers, but it's an important structural element. Obviously, Kirsten and her peers on the Carers Advisory Group are going to be a very powerful voice, and a representative from the Carers Advisory Group is on the steering group as well. So we're hoping that we're very mindful it does need to be carers first, but there are obviously other ways for carers to be involved. So I don't know if others have got some extra comments to make on that.
I think that's pretty good. Thanks, Edwina. And then there was another question here. Will the previous community of practice from the UTS Centre for Carers Research be part of this exchange? So that's probably one for you, Edwina.
Yes, absolutely. We're obviously through the website and through the sort of new model, we're stealing all those, because I'm in the same outfit and work very closely with Paula in her last year of the Centre for Carers Research. So yes, the answer is absolutely yes. Some members of the previous carers, the research community are on the research advisory group for the exchange, and we'll obviously be using all those addresses as we disseminate information as the exchange goes forward. So yes, we'd be hoping the UTS exchange not only continues, but sort of grows and melds with the broader exchange community. So yeah, and if you feel as though you haven't had enough contact with the exchange yet, just give me an email. If you're a UTS person, you know how to contact me, and very much link you up to the other sort of databases that we're building up. But I'm pretty certain they're all in the right mix, and I'll talk to Tish to make sure that's happening as well.
Thanks, Edwina. We've had another suggestion of topic, which is great. So we'll be taking those down. And then I think just one more question, which was around the advisory groups and can former carers join? So I guess I'm happy to address that, since Carers New South Wales will be mainly coordinating those groups. So the advisory groups for the project are sort of smaller groups of carers that are formally helping with the establishment process. So those memberships are currently in place, but there'll be many opportunities for carers to be involved in the broader exchange. And one of the existing networks that Edwina mentioned that we're bringing into this is the prior Centre for Carers Research Network, but also the Carers New South Wales Carer Representative Network is an important one that will be definitely linked into activities as they are interested to. So for the moment, those advisory group memberships are set, but for all the groups we mentioned, there'll be lots of very, very involved opportunities to really be involved to the level that you're interested in. So keep sending us ideas for that, but we look forward to increasing those engagement opportunities as we go. I think that's all the questions. So we can probably wrap up, and I might just do one last plug for the website. And I don't know, Elena, did you want to have a last word?
Yeah, look, I'd just like to thank all of our speakers and all of our attendees today. This is, you know, it's a great day to have the launch of the Carer Knowledge Exchange officially out there today. I think it looks great. It's going to be very interactive. It's going to be, I think, you know, really productive, and it's going to have, you know, create those great opportunities to bring people together and create great evidence base and sharing of information and translating that importantly into practice and making it very useful, as you know, everyone spoke to today. So thank you everybody for your time today, and we're really excited to kick it off from today. So thanks very much, everyone.